Okay, so what do we think the specific problem with gay marriage is?
According to Miss Maggie Gallagher from the Constitutional Law Synopsis, she says that you have to make a next generation or your society dies out. So the difficult social problem and strong social benefit of providing children, which heterosexual marriage is wrestling with, does not affect gay marriage and lesbian people in that they do not have that problem and they cannot provide the benefit. So basically, if there's gay marriage, our society is going to end up killing itself out, like not being able to reproduce.
Yeah,
that's one problem.
I totally agree. But the specific problem for me is this article by TFP Student Action. It says marriage is not a man-made institute. Thus, man has no right to define, redefine, or transform what God has ordained and establish his own sovereignty. Marriage is from God, belongs to God, and is profited the declaration and that he wants to make to human race about his relationship with us. Therefore, we need to trim carefully, prayerfully around his word.
Where did you end up finding that?
The article off of TFP Student Actions
Okay.
about gay marriage. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I just agree with you guys on those subjects. That's basically what I found as well.
okay. Yeah, and I also found from, according to WND and Leo Hohmann, that every once in a while the homosexual agenda makes an effort to redefine morality. But history tells us that every culture that has embraced a homosexual culture has suffered decadence, depravity, and decline.
Okay.
So basically it just has negative effects on society and it ends up making everything go bad. So that's that. And also according to David Sliker, marriage falls outside the boundaries of debate and human rights. So no one has the intrinsic right to redraw the boundaries God himself has drawn and defined. So basically we shouldn't be putting gay marriage into legislation because it's not our job to do that. So, does anyone have any terms or concepts that go along with gay marriage that they want to talk about?
I did not thought it was necessary.
Okay.
Well, of course, we have the LGBT group, you know, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community that is fighting for their right for gay marriage. So,
Yeah. I also got, according to Wikipedia, I just thought it was interesting to have the definition of free will in here because it says that free will is the ability to choose between different possible courses of action. So that means that having that free will to choose whether or not to participate in the gay marriage agenda was taken away through the legislation of it. Okay, so up next we have who is harmed by the problem? Who is harmed by gay marriage?
I looked up, I found that gay marriage, homosexuality, this is from the Research Center, Religion Public. The main people that's harmed from this, they said was the children are harmed by this problem because since there's a gay marriage, you're going to have like a mom and a mom, no dad, that's for the lesbians. And then the guys, no mom is going to be in that children's life. So, and another problem was the people, like, the harm is a birth rate is going to be harmed. So that's what I found on the internet about that.
That's what
I found that according to, Peter Spriggs, he says that forcing same-sex couples and their families to wait and hope for the best during pendency of this appeal imposes an intolerable and dehumanizing burden that no family should have to endure. He's basically talking about the fact that it is harming children and everything, and that it's mentally challenging, not mentally challenging, but mentally devastating to kids, and they actually end up growing up with more depression, more likely to have suicide rates, and such things.
With that, I also feel like us as Christians are being harmed in this, as I feel like it's going to attack our religion a little bit more with how we stand in this, and with it being so pro at the moment, people are putting a negative mindset on Christians, saying, well, they're not for this, so we do not like them. I think that it's going to really, really affect the church for a while.
I agree with you, and also I found, according to Media Network, several Arkansas pastors, specifically in this state, are opting out of performing gay marriages since last month's U.S. Supreme Court ruling. And the problem is that they're actually being brought to legislation and being sued because they're opting out of it because of the Supreme Court Act. So it's really harming pastors and religious leaders because they're not able to practice their own religious freedom according to the First Amendment. They're being forced to not be able to.
Yeah.
So that's an issue in itself.
Wow.
So the next point is, when does harm occur?
Okay, I have some things on this. So on June 26th, this is when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that gay marriage is a right protected by the U.S. Constitution in all 50 states. Prior to the decision, same-sex marriage is already legal in 37 states. 37 states and Washington, D.C., but it was banned in the remaining 13. So the U.S. public opinion has shifted significantly over the years. So it went from 27% approval of gay marriage in 1996 to 60% in 2015. Yeah, and I found that pro-con headlines.
I also found mine at pro-con headlines too, saying about like when this harm occurs is when like as the children, I thought that children was getting harmed, so when the children get raised, that's when it really occurs. Like for depression, like she said, all that happens. That's when it occurs.
Yeah.
But also to the individuals of homosexuals, it just brings so much financial stress to them because they're not able to, can be considered as taxpayers to each other, and like they can't get the same benefits that heterosexuals have. And then they bring so many health risks to each other with HIV and AIDS that just gets spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
And then it's just harming society as a whole because it's just redefining the whole concept of marriage, and it's just causing so many problems and so many debates. And that's from Matt Slick, who is the president and founder of Christian Apologetics.
Yeah, and I see that too, just to reiterate, that according to Carl Giberson, a colleague of his was actually forced out of the ENC for refusing to condemn gay marriage. So it's just like, it's causing people to lose jobs. There's so many like health negative issues that come into play, and it's just like not a good overall subject on America as it would be. Okay, so what would happen if the problem, as in gay marriage, were not solved?
So what I have found from Nandy Hunter, he wrote this, he wrote on Georgetown Law. He said, first, we may see an increasing uptake by different sex couples of marriage equivalent and marriage alternate statuses if present demographic trends continue. The group of different sex couples most likely to seek access to these new statuses will be person middle age or older. So it's just going to increase. It's not going to be the young kids anymore. It's not going to be, you notice now it's more lower 20s. But as this increases, it's going to start affecting people who are older in their 40s and 50s. I just see a lot of problems going on with that. Yeah.
I found if the problem was not solved, I found this on the Fine Law article, same-sex marriage. Gays was to go on and spread. The nation would soon begin to experience an increased degradation of a nuclear family, resulting in fewer kids being raised by both mom and dad. And our population would decrease, and only in men and women, because men and women can only produce babies, so our population would decrease. And like people would go on and say, like in this article, they was talking about like people was like, oh shit, like people were born gay, like people were like born gay, like that myth would go on, and this dude named Roger Bryan or something, yeah, Roger Bryan, he said, no one was born gay because you're a child of God.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said. And then again, using the same source, you know, what would happen if the problem doesn't occur? Then we would have a higher rate in HIV and AIDS, and then it forces the civil union to recognize like co-workers and money payouts. Like it's just like inflation and stuff like that. It causes a lot of detriment to our economic system. And then again, gay marriage causes child-raised abuse.
To kind of piggyback on that real quick with the government and stuff, it says since 60% of the same-sex marriage are performed for out-of-state residents, the complexity of federal-state conflict regarding recognition of particular marriages is likely to increase dramatically.
Yeah.
That is also from Nandy Hunter. I just think that's super interesting how this government is like everything's just gonna go
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because like everything is starting to like be split up. So it's like you have the federal government who passes this law, but then the states don't all accept it or something. So then if you move states, then you have to adjust, and it's just difficult no matter what way you look at it, from a religious standpoint or from people actually going through it. All right. So how bad overall is the problem? I know we were talking about this, and how large is the problem? And I'm just going to start out with, according to Elena Wise, 48% of independent voters back gay marriage, making it difficult for a conservative Republican to win in general elections, which causes less representation for Christian conservative people to be represented in the government, when we're a vast majority of the population that actually is like part of the working and labor force. So.
More of not how large, because the problem obviously is spread nationwide since it's legal in all 50 states. According to Thomas from Fox News, he said that given their political clout and antipathy to Christian doctrines, some gay activists are likely to go after the tax-exempt status of Christian colleges that prohibit cohabitation of unmarried students or openly homosexual ones, as well as churches that refuse to marry them. So then it says, as with legal challenges to the owners of bakeries have been in the news for refusing to bake a cake for the same-sex weddings. It's getting that deep. It's getting into even florists and all this stuff. Activists who demand total conformity to their agenda will seek to put out businesses and silence anyone who believes differently. So this problem is going to get huge, because those people who strongly believe in gay rights are going to start going after people with small businesses, people with big businesses, and they're going to try to run them out, and it's going to cause a lot of strife in the economy as well.
This is why it's a major moral issue like in our country right now, because where do we draw the line? Where does that even come in? And then according to tfpstudentaction.org, it says that in the private sphere, objecting parents will see their children exposed more than ever to this new morality business. Offering wedding services will be forced to provide for same-sex unions and rental property. Owners will have to agree to accept same-sex couples as tenants. And then again, you know, it affects us as Christians so much because it's totally against us. And if they're going to attack us, then how do we defend ourselves when everybody's going to, you know, say that we're hypocrites or that we're, you know, being judgmental.
I said that, I agree with you. With the problem is being big because it was really popular. The Supreme Court had it and everything. And the problem like hurts our popular nation's religion, like Christianity. That's what I found. Like in Christianity Today, what Roger Wickard said, he said it will hurt our most popular our nation's. It will hurt our nation's belief system.
And then again, it's just going to keep growing because it's such a popular thing right now, and people are going to say that they're gay when really it's just for the bandwagon effect. So.
All right. So the next point is, what is the history of the problem?
There's a lot that has led up to it. There was a cases even from October 6th in 1972 that had started to have this problem. Actually, April 21st in 1975, one of the homosexual couples is Rich Adams and Tony Sullivan. They had petitioned the Immigration and Naturalization Service to have Adams, an American sponsored civilian, and an Australian for immigration purposes. The petition is denied, so that's everything's denied for a while, and the couple proceeds to file the first federal lawsuit seeking the freedom to marry for same-sex couples. The federal court ruled that Colorado law only recognizes marriages between different sex couples, and in 1982, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals agrees. So, from the very beginning, people are starting to fight, from early, the homosexuals are starting to fight for their rights.
Yeah.
And for a really long time, you start to see how they're not getting their way.
Yeah.
Everyone's sticking to the old-fashioned Christian ways.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's many things that have happened. Does anyone else have?
No, you're right though. It's crazy how times have changed from where they used to be back in 1972 to where they are now in 2015, where the polls are up to 60% of people supporting gay marriage from like 20% where they were back maybe 10, 15 years ago.
And then now we're even celebrating October as National Gay History Month. You know, we have a National Coming Out Day on October 11th, and so yeah, it's just.
I'd also found May 17th in 2004. Even just like coming up to this, it's all the way up in 2004 now, and Massachusetts became the first state in the United States to allow same-sex couples to share in the freedom to marry. Marriage opponents attempt to amend the Constitution to strip away the freedom to marry, but the amendment is defeated on June 14, 2007, when over 75% of the state legislators vote to stand up for all families. So, as they still try to attack, Massachusetts is opening up and allowing for them to be recognized as married. And I think it's really interesting how it started so early, and it took so long for them to get this step,
Yeah,
get their foot in the door.
Yeah, and even back around in 2010, according to CNN, and starting point at RSS, during Argentina's bitter same-sex marriage fight, the then Archbishop, now Pope Francis, got into a very public verbal battle with the country's president. He called her gay marriage bill a destructive attack on God's plan. And that was in 2010. So that was 5 years ago, and he now supports it. His views have changed over the past 5 years, so it's crazy how that's happened. Yeah.
My history thing was found a history of the gays and how this thing all started, where them making it in the bills. A lot of the gays goes to the 14th Amendment, where the Constitution says, and it was ratified in 1868, all the way back in that time. And the 14th Amendment was stating like it requires like a state to license a marriage between two people of the same sex, and to recognize a marriage between two people of the same sex when their marriage was lawfully licensed and performed out of state. Well, the 14th Amendment really says define a national citizenship and forbidding the state to restrict the basic rights of a citizen or other person. So that's why a lot of gays go off of that, amendment. And that's why the problem was the 14th Amendment.
I also forgot to mention that all of this stuff that I found was on the history and timeline of Freedom to Marry. So it was the Freedom to Marry website, which is huge now.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah. So, overall, what do you think are the causes of the gay marriage problem? What is really like the driving force behind all of this?
We can easily go the Christian route and say it is 100% sin. It's the fall. It's everyone's now trying to fight against Christ, and this is just another way to go against him.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then even still, like even if this law, like if we were to accept this law, like there are still problems within the gay community. It says, in spite of Title IX's passage in 1964, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals still lack statutory protections against discrimination in the workplace. Similarly, in most states, heterosexual individuals are unable to bring claims of reverse employment discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. So yeah, it's just everywhere that's causing problems.
Yeah, like across all the spectrum. I see that, like, according to the Daily Times, same-sex couples that desire to marry at any church of the choosing now they can, which causes a problem, obviously, in the fact when unwilling clergymen, pastors, or ministers do not want to perform this, and then it causes a problem with morals, it causes personal issues, it causes just when you see people even on the street, you know, like, oh, I don't like that person because they don't support my views. So it's just causing little quarrels everywhere, so it's making everyone's heads just butt constantly. Oh yeah. So what is being done now to solve the problem?
So real quick, what I had found from Dana Milbank on the Washington Post, she had talked about a story about this lawyer, like out of nowhere lawyer who decided to try to battle it, and he was not a successful lawyer, so he decides to go to the route of gay marriage kills. They're saying that legalizing same-sex marriage will cause 900,000 abortions. Well, he tries to do this and it doesn't succeed because he did not have any evidence to back this up. And I see, like, the problem with people trying to fight gay marriage at the moment is they're trying to fight it without the Bible. And without the Bible, they cannot find anything morally wrong, because in the world today, we look at things in such a different way. Like, the morals on the earth are so completely different than what the morals are in the Bible.
Yeah.
So that's how I've seen it so far.
My methods are from Wesley Larry in an article of the gays trying to solve the problem. Is they put out programs to help these gays and lesbians to, like, because eventually they gotta raise their kids, so they get out programs to, like, try to help them how to, like, make sure your child does fit in the right society, because society today, your child will get teased if you got gay parents. So that's what I found on my stuff.
Yeah, I found from Kirk Mitchell, he says that, well, back when Colorado was in full support of gay marriage, and then they did allow it, when they applauded the U.S. Supreme Court's decision on Friday to take up the issue this term, it's like, you know, they just think that if we let it pass or we just accept it, that it's going to fix all the problems and that they'll stop, you know, trying to get more, but it's not true. It's going to keep pushing and pushing until basically our moral standpoints as Christians are just going to be thrown down the drain and not even considered anymore.
Yeah. And something else that I found for, like, to trying to help to solve the problem was in Texas, according to Breitbart, a minister may not be required to solemnize any marriage or provide services, accommodations, and otherwise to any marriage if the action would cause the organization or individual to violate a sincerely held religious belief. Mm-hmm. So this means that the pastor or whatever doesn't have to perform a gay marriage if he does not want to. He or she, whatever, doesn't want to. But this is only in Texas. Mm-hmm. So that's the issue I see with that. The only thing, so, like I said, like the limitation to that method, about that passage of that law or something by Texas, is that it's just in Texas. So what are other limitations to the methods that we've just suggested?
The limitations?
Yeah.
Like I said, the lack of information that people have have enough courage to go up and stand against gay marriage. Mm-hmm. Those people that are going up, like I said, the lawyer from nowhere, it's a problem because people are trying to attack this issue without any information to back them up. They've got no real hard facts, and with our society, you need facts. You need evidence, and without evidence, people are not going to sit there and believe you. The whole believe what you see or hear kind of thing comes into work. So, also, again, people are turning away from the church. They don't want to hear what Christians have to say anymore, so they're closing their ears, which also limits us as Christians to try to talk to them and reach out. Yeah. And it's not working with the fact that sin's just overpowering.
Yeah. From William Burns from the Church Must Move On with the Times. He says, the government will shortly begin consulting on gay marriage, and it seems only a matter of time before this will be enshrined in law. Then watch what happens. Sooner or later, there will be a test case claiming the human rights of homosexual couples to obtain a church blessing if so they wish. So it's just, again, it's always coming back to the church, and like their solutions are being limited by our beliefs.
Yeah.
So it's just grinding against each other all the time.
Oh.
All right, I have something according to James Paulos. The Constitution provides us with pretty much no protection against ideologies who want to hardwire specific secular dogmas into our laws and our lives. And also, according to Tony Perkins, after years of saying that his position on same-sex marriage was evolving, President Obama states that he supports legalizing same-sex marriage in an interview that he had on ABC News. And the problem why we're so limited in the methods that we want to solve this issue is because our own president supports it. So it's difficult if the person who's leading our country is the person that's actually the driving force behind something that's such
Face.
a controversial issue. So, with that being said, do you guys have any solutions that would be helpful, or the solution that we officially came up with? Do you want to just start with?
Yeah, my solution was to repeal the Gay Marriage Act.
No, that's
Repeal it.
solid. Yep. And then we came up with after you repeal the Gay Marriage Act, because it conflicts with the First Amendment of religious freedom, that then we would.
We would, we could end gay marriage to the church in our witnessing. So as a church, we just need to be more bold in our faith. Honestly, we're sitting back and watching it happen, and we're grumbling to ourselves, saying that this is an issue, but no one's standing up to it. And the people who are standing up are making fools of themselves.
Yeah.
And because they've got no one else to back them up. And I feel like as a church, we need to stand behind those people and not just sit in the shadows.
Definitely. Yes.
And then my solution was that even if we did accept it, we need to give priests and ministers and every religious leader their protected rights, and even business owners their rights to refuse if they don't believe in it.
Yes. I agree. And also then, so that gay and lesbian couples would be happy, we also decided that the gay partner would be able to be allowed to have the official title as next of kin, so that they could visit their partner in the hospital.
Yes.
So that was our overall solution, all mashed together.
Or even just abolish the law in general.
Yes, that would be great too.
It might help just a bit.
Yes. All right.